I'm excited to get the eDNA sample results, but in the meantime, I want to get some alternative views on the evidence that suggests CHAMP exists. So I've come to talk with marine biologist, Dr. Ellen Marsden.
So what we're looking at is an image of the bottom of a lake. It's telling us that the bottom is about 150 feet away. And by the nature of the image, it says it's a soft bottom. So a hard bottom, bedrock, for example, sends back a very sharp echo, and you get a good, crisp, hard line of the bottom. Soft substrates, silts, small particulate, will absorb some of the sound, some of it bounces off, and so you get a sort of fuzzy image, as we're seeing here. Below the substrate, and it looks like maybe 15 feet by the scale, there's some harder echo.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's hard to tell. Most likely, they're logs, because Lake Champlain's been accumulating sediments for centuries. A log settles on the bottom because it's waterlogged. It gets covered in more and more layers of sand and silt. The challenge is this: I can tell how deep it is based on the scale, but I cannot tell how long it is because that's dependent on the speed of the boat. If you've got a 10-foot log and you zip over it at speed, it'll look that big. If you've got something this big and you go over it very slowly, it'll look long. There are large animals in Lake Champlain. The largest is the lake sturgeon. So you could get a 75-year-old lake sturgeon that could conceivably be 12 feet. But the longest ones we've seen are about 9 feet. You unexpectedly come across something 9 foot long in the lake that's got large scales that look like shields along its back and along its sides. That's a monster.
I've come to a genetics testing lab in California to hand over the water samples we took in Lake Champlain. We're gonna have those samples tested for environmental DNA.
Hey Nick, how are you?
Hi, Greg, doing well. I'm hoping this test can help determine what eyewitnesses are seeing in Lake Champlain.
Well, we'll take these, we'll extract some DNA and see what we can find.
Awesome, after you.
Did you take these samples?
I did. When we were out there, we saw something on the sonar that looked pretty similar to what everybody's reporting, Champ, the lake monster. What exactly are we extracting?
So we're gonna take the filters over to our extraction room
Okay.
so we can extract in isolation. We remove the actual membrane from the capsule. She'll extract the DNA off the filters and turn it into liquid DNA. When we get the liquid DNA, we can bring it out here and we can do PCR preparation and get ready for analysis.
So we're basically finding out what is in the lake and what isn't in the lake, right?
In Lake Champlain, there's fish, there's amphibians, there's some snakes by the shore. All of these organisms leave or deposit materials into the lake in the form of cells or tissues. They die, they decay, and they leave all this material in the lake, and it's floating around, it's moving around the shore. So yes, we're getting the DNA out of the environment that you sampled, and it should tell us which species were present at the time you sampled.
Great.
There is a theory out there that Champ has evolved from a plesiosaur. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a good example. Long neck, it's got a hump behind it. The Manti photograph, the Loch Ness photographs, they look like this. You have a neck because you're an air breather. The longest that any animal can hold its breath is about 2 hours. So it has to come up 12 times a day. You can't have one. So the alternative is you have a self-perpetuating population. You have a lot of champs breeding baby champs. But if each one of those coming to the surface 12 times a day in order to get air, we'd see them more often than we do.
What do you believe in your experience that people are seeing that they chalk up to being Champ?
The water in the lake is an alien environment. If you're not familiar with a lake or you hit circumstances you've never hit before, things become monsters very quickly. The classic one is a flat, calm day, sunny like this one, and in the distance you see 3 humps. And you go, I just saw a monster. No, it's actually wake. The boat's gone, it's half an hour in the distance, it's sent up wake, and that wake rolls and looks like 3 humps moving through the water. In spring, we get snowmelt, we get huge amounts of large woody debris coming down the rivers and into the lake, and it can look like a minefield out there. 20, 25-foot logs, maybe with some branch that's sticking up, and maybe it rolls a little bit, and you've got a monster.
Right now, the scientists at Genetics are running a detailed analysis of the water samples we collected at Lake Champlain. Their science director, Scott Blankenship, is going to reveal what exactly they found.
So we found a number of species from your samples, which is great. And you might be interested to know that we did find something that somebody might consider a monster.
We found a lake monster? Tell me. The biologists at Genetics Labs have tested the water samples we collected at Lake Champlain for eDNA.
They're saying we may have found a monster from the deep.
All right, Scott, so what exactly did we find here?
All right, well, I wanted to show you first off, here's one of the DNA extracts from the water sample that you had. We turned that filter into organics and then extracted the DNA off of that and then sequenced it. The actual sequences from your water samples are right here. We got a number of species, some ancient fish species like lamprey. We did get humans, some other mammals, pretty common in the environment, not surprising. So one of the species I wanted to bring to your attention is number 19 here, the muskellunge. That's a very large predatory fish, and if I ran across that in the middle of the night, I might consider that a monster.
So this is what you're equating to Champ, the monster that everyone has been seeing for generations in Lake Champlain.
I think it's reasonable.
Were there any reptiles or amphibians in the results?
So there weren't in your particular samples. We only got fish and mammals. Reptiles can be hard to detect. They're somewhat armored, they're not very mobile, they might not be shedding a lot of materials, so they're harder to detect and they didn't end up in a sample.
So we know that sturgeon are in Lake Champlain. We know they exist within the lake. They didn't show up on the results though. Can you explain why that happened?
So with environmental samples, your whole universe is in that bottle of water that you sampled. So if a sturgeon didn't swim by within a few days or perhaps a week, very likely it didn't end up in your sample. Also, you know, sturgeon aren't scaled like other fish. They're not potentially sloughing off a lot of material. Be easy to miss them in a sample.
So we know there are creatures in the lake that the samples did not pick up.
It'd be pretty easy for a species to evade the samples that you had. The amount of space that you sampled was pretty limited compared to the area of the entire lake.
So one of the common theories about Champ is that it's a plesiosaur. Is there any way to identify DNA from a species that went extinct over 60 million years ago, like a plesiosaur?
There is, in the sense that we have a representation of the tree of life, from microbes to really ancient reptiles that are still around, to contemporary species like humans. My guess is that if you had sampled a species such as an ancient dinosaur, it would end up where we would think a reptile would be, and probably mistake it for perhaps a current reptile.
So we can't say we definitively found Champ, but that doesn't mean he's not there. He just wasn't where we got our water sample.
There's still plenty of evidence and analysis to go over with Jen.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Jen.
Those were some interesting results. Do you still have faith in eDNA?
Yeah, that went a little against me there. Champ wasn't in that area. Scott at Genetics pointed out that we need to collect samples from all throughout Lake Champlain to get a real makeup of what exactly is in the lake.
Okay, I get that. The one thing I keep coming back to is that a carcass has never washed ashore. There's never been any skeletal remains found. And when I talked to Dr. Marsden, she said that one of these champ-like creatures would have to surface at least 12 times a day. So if you're looking at a colony of them, it just doesn't match up with the number of sightings we have.
Yeah, that's pretty problematic. What I have to lean back on are the hundreds of years of anecdotal stories passed down from the indigenous people all the way to Samuel de Champlain himself, seeing this creature, and it looks exactly the same. Classic plesiosaur, long neck, hump. That hasn't changed. There's been no variation to the creature. I have to lean toward Champ being something more realistic than just a story.
So speaking of the sightings, there's something I want you to see. Investigator Benjamin Radford, he had the opportunity to interview Sandra Manzi 20 years ago, and this interview has never been seen before.
And in the meantime, I'm looking out and I could see the water kind of turning a bit. And then the head and the neck broke the surface of the water right here. And so I saw that come up. And I'm thinking, wow, that is one big damn sturgeon. And then I saw the head come up, and then the neck, and then the back. And I snapped a picture. I am convinced I saw something that should have been dead a very long time ago. I don't know how it got there. I don't know what you want to call it, but I'm telling you, it was no damn fish or a 2,000-pound duck. And we sent it to the photo man. And it came back, and we're looking at it, and I went, oh my God. He said, I told you that was something. So, but now what are you gonna do with it? I don't know. I'm not telling anybody.
So what do you think of Sandra?
She sounds like somebody that really saw something. She's not really gloating about it. She's just really telling you what it is.
I think she's absolutely being truthful in what she thinks she saw. And I think it's also important to note that she never made any money off of this. The National Enquirer wanted to buy the photo, and she turned them down. So to me, that gives her credibility.
To me, it sounds like Sandra saw a dinosaur.
One thing that Sandra said at the end of the video sticks out to me.
I could see muscle structure. I could see that it was a living, I remember the mouth because the mouth was like open when it came up and water came out. You know what the texture looks like? Bark.
Ben Radford's theory is that this was a large stump that got rolled over and the camera captured this image just at the perfect time.
I think Ben's theory holds a lot of weight. However, it's not including the details that Mancy pointed out. The creature moving about, water coming out of its mouth, those aren't gonna be actions of a log.
But that's the thing, just by changing the perspective and the angle, I think people are seeing things out there, something that looks like Champ, that are logs with the wake.
However, that's not what everybody is seeing. You know, logs don't swim away from people. Logs don't break the surface and then dive back down. Sandra Mancy even said she saw the creature moving and she saw its mouth open and water come out. That's not a log. People are seeing an active, moving, living, breathing creature. That's Champ to me. To be honest, I'm not surprised we didn't find a carcass or that the eDNA didn't exactly pan out. But I think there needs to be more analysis done into Lake Champlain. And I think there's a lot more water samples that need to be examined at the lake.
You know, I would love to have a reason to come back here. Lake Champlain is beautiful, but at the end of the day, there's not enough evidence. So for me, this is done.